everybody, my name is Tracy Jackson and today I will be demonstrating how to make flying geese units in 3 different ways. I'll start off by showing you how to make an individual unit, which is very handy when you're using scraps of fabric. Then move on to making 4 units at once and finally end up with showing you how to make a 3-dimensional or folded flying geese unit. Right, for our individual unit we will need 1 rectangle and 2 squares. We are going to take our 2 squares and we're going to draw a diagonal line across both of them. Now, in order to do this, we want to work with the thinnest possible tool so that the line is not thick. We want this to be accurate. The other thing I would like to explain to you is that when you place your ruler on your fabric, make sure that you hold the 2 edges down so that your fabric doesn't move when you draw a line. Also, angle your pencil in towards the ruler when you draw the line so that it is right against the ruler, as opposed to if you hold it upwards, the lead might actually go a little bit away from the ruler and then it's not exactly in the right place. I use a normal mechanical lead pencil for this because it's nice and thin and it washes out quite easily. If, however, you cannot see the lead pencil color on your fabric, my next favorite marking tool is a chalk pencil, which is also thin and it comes in various different colors so that you can use it on any color fabric. Right, once we have got our 2 squares marked, we're going to place one of them on the side of the rectangle unit. Make sure to line up your 2 edges and that from your side, the stitching line must start in the middle of the rectangle. Once you have done that, take it to your sewing machine and stitch just a smidgen inside of the line towards the edge of the rectangle here. This is just to allow for the fold. When your fabric folds up, it won't take away any of your space. Once you have stitched your line, you can press it to set your stitches. Just flip it over to check that it is the right size before you go ahead and cut a 1/4 inch away from the edge to take away the excess fabric. Once you have done that, you can then press your piece nicely so that it lies flat. You can either press to the one side or you can open your seam and press it open. From then onwards, we're going to take our 2nd square and we're going to place it on the other side of the rectangle, lining up the edges. It will overlap this one and you can see once again the pencil line comes from the middle of the rectangle going outwards. Same process again. We're going to stitch along there. We're going to press it to set the seam. We're going to cut. It'll look like that before you start cutting. We're going to cut off the edge, flip it up and press it again, which will result in a unit like that. All that is left now is to square up the unit. You can see I've placed my ruler with the diagonal line lining up with one of the sides of the large triangle. I've got my measurement that I can see. It's in the middle of my finished size of the unit and my other 1/4 inch measurement so that there's 1/4 inch where your seam is going to be. Then you can trim up this side and this side of the unit before turning it around to trim up the other side. Here you can place it. I know this unit is 5.5 inches by 3 inches, so I've trimmed that side and that side so I can line my ruler up with the 5.5 and the 3 here to trim up. You'll see it comes in nicely at the corner there. I've got my 1/4 inch here and I'm going to have plenty space to sew this unit onto the next unit without losing the point. If you are lucky enough to have a flying geese ruler, the one I've got here is called a wing clipper. It's got all these beautiful markings on it to make it much easier to square up your flying geese unit. Here you can see I have placed, there's a little triangle marking So I can put that in the corner of my large triangle, line it up nicely, and it will automatically give me the correct measurement to trim down the side and along the top of the unit. Then all that's necessary is to turn the unit around. Then once again, my ruler's got square markings over here that you can then just place right onto the cross here in the middle of your large triangle. Make sure that it's all square, and you can trim up these two sides. Here the ruler is showing you've got your 1/2 inch seam ready to join your flying geese unit to the next one. And if you've done a whole lot of scrap fabric ones, you can end up with a unit like that, which is very cheerful and colorful. Moving on to making 4 flying geese units at once, you will need a large square and 4 small contrasting squares. The same as what we did before, we're going to draw our diagonal line across each one of the small squares. First of all, you will just take 2 squares and line them up, one on this corner of the large square and one on the other corner of the large square. Please, it's quite important to pin these pieces down in the correct place before you take them to the sewing machine to sew. You will see they overlap here in the middle, which is normal, and your line should make a continuous line all the way through. Now, unlike the other unit that we just made, this line is not a stitching line, but it's a guide line. So you're going to sew a 1/4 inch, or actually a scant 1/4 inch to this side and a scant 1/4 inch to the other side of your drawn line. Once you come back from the sewing machine, this is what it's going to look like. You see your 2 lines stitched 1/4 inch, a scant 1/4 inch away from the line that you drew. Now you press it to set your stitching and you cut it apart, where you'll end up with 2 funny looking units like this. Once again, to the ironing board and press your seams to look like this strange thing. So you're going to end up with 2 units that look like this. Once again, you can either press your seam to one side or you can press your seam open, whichever is your preference. Then I'm going to show you with one of these pieces, but you do exactly the same to each one of these units. You take your 3rd square with your line drawn across it, and you're going to place it in the corner, exactly like we did with the biggest square to start with, and you're going to stitch your scant 1/4 inch both sides of the line. Once again, press it to set your stitching and cut it apart. Once you cut it apart and you've done both units, you're going to end up with 4 units that look like that, which just then need to be pressed and squared up. And there you will have 4 units all at once with very little stitching. If that has whet your appetite to make flying geese units, go to the YouTube channel and check out a tutorial by Quilting with Carla. It's called How to Make Flying Geese Units Fast, Easy and Accurate. She has a method there with very few stitching lines. You can make up to 48 units at once. Thank you for watching and happy stitching.